Welcome back to the Broker Room. I'm Bob Anjarusik, and today's guest is Andy Fell, founder of GiFT631. Now, GiFT631 is a leadership and personal growth business that focuses on helping people reach their true potential. Welcome to the podcast, Andy.
Thank you very much. Delighted to be here.
Mate, thank you for flying out. I know you live up on the Gold Coast, so mate, I appreciate the early start. It was 4 a.m. start?
It was, but it's a pleasure to be here. So,
thank you, mate. Now, for those of you who don't know, Andy is a great friend and mentor of mine, and I have directly benefited from some of Andy's teachings over the years, which has been great for me. I mean, he's helped me in my own career. Andy, speaking of careers, tell me a little bit about yours, where you've come from, what you've done, and some of the teachings that you've learned from your granddad.
Yeah, sure. So I spent 28 years in financial services. The first 20 were in the United Kingdom. I worked for the Royal Bank of Scotland and National Westminster Banks, and most of my career was spent leading people distribution businesses. So branch networks, actually a mortgage, a sales mortgage centre, and then teams of relationship managers, be they private bankers, business bankers. Mm-hmm. And my last job was actually director of first-party mortgages for R.B.S, National Westminster Bank, and a couple of private banks. Then the GFC came along, and I had the good fortune to be made redundant. And I'm a strong believer, as you know, that there's opportunity in absolutely everything, as long as you're willing to find it. On the back of that, I relocated across to Australia and spent another 7 or 8 years working for the Westpac group. Again, in the consumer banking division, running branch networks, and then running the St. George Retail Bank for 3.5 years, which was a really phenomenal job. And then finally, I turned 50 and worked out what I wanted to do in my life. Yeah. And I've always wanted to run my own business. So 6 months after turning 50, I left and I set up GiFT631. And 631 is the property that I grew up as a child. And I'm a massive believer in legacy. And I think every broker should have that same kind of view that, we've got to take a long-term sustainable view of life and business. Yep. And I really wanted my parents, but as you say, also my grandfather's legacy to live on in the name of my business. And my grandfather used to come to 631, and once my grandmother had passed away, and he used to live with myself and my parents, and he was my first great teacher. And I think there's 3 things that my grandfather taught me that I believe have massive relevance for the broker community. Yep. The first one is that relationships are the foundation of everything. My grandfather used to stress the importance of always building networks, building your relationships. And that linked to the second thing. Now, my grandfather had left school at 12. Wow. And he was a servant in a big country house. And initially he lived in the stables with the horses. Wow. And then he got promoted to be a footman in this big country house. So he was part of the servant class. And he used to say to me, he said, always live with a servant's heart. Always do people a good turn. Always put good out into the universe. Never worry about whether you're going to get it back or not. Just do good. Do good, yeah. And do good consistently. It's these little acts of appreciation, little acts of gratitude, just showing other people that you care. And I think that's so relevant in today's world. And then the third thing I learned from my grandfather was never make a decision when you're tired. He used to say to me, things will always look better in the morning. And I see so many people today who they work extended hours and they get towards the end of the day and they're thinking, I've just got to get, this out of my inbox, or this, I've just got to decide on this or that or the other. And, to me, you've got to match. It's not about managing time so much. It's about managing energy. So, the important things you've got to do, be they decisions, be they a really important communication, a really important email, do them when you're fresh, do them when your energy's good. So there are 3 great lessons from my dear grandfather.
Mate, I love that. It's made some really great lessons, not just for brokers, but people in general,
just in life and business, right? Yeah,
absolutely. So, Andy, you obviously have a lot of experience across corporate. Obviously, GiFT 631. You talk to a lot of brokers, a lot of industry leaders. Tell me a little bit about your thoughts on the broking industry at the moment, and why are brokers so important in the market at the moment?
Yeah, and I'd like to link that, if I can, to the way the world is changing with things like artificial intelligence, and everyone's talking about ChatGPT. And I think if you look at what technology cannot do, it's everything that brokers can and should do. What ChatGPT can't do for us is it can't replace empathy. Yes. It can't replace curiosity. It can't replace emotional intelligence. It can't replace creating deep connections between me as a broker and you as a client. And I think that to me is why brokers are so important, and also why it's a sustainable business model, because technology can do so much for brokers and everyone else, but it can't replace that deep human connection. And I think that deep human connection is important in three ways. It's really important for the people you lead, because we all know that there's a war for talent right now, and I think that will continue. It's really important for, like my grandfather would say, creating lifelong relationships. And then I believe as a broker, you want to create a world where your service proposition is so strong that your clients become your raving fans. Yes. They become your unpaid sales force. They're actually out selling your proposition for you. And I think that's the edge that absolutely brokers have, where you're dealing, human being to human being, and you're creating that connection, you're creating that level of relationship, which cannot be taken away from by technology.
Yeah. One of the things you touched on earlier on was leadership. What does it mean to be a good leader in today's market? What does it mean? I mean, some of the things that you talk about is your success formula. You talk about your morning routine, managing time, the power of reflection and debriefing. Talk to me through those things. And what does it take to be a good leader?
I mean, Dr. Stephen Covey said the difference between management and leadership. He said management is climbing the ladder of success efficiently, and leadership is making sure the ladder is placed against the right wall. And to do that,
wise words.
Yeah, very, very wise words. You've got to be able to think. So I only have two speeds in life and business. I'm either really still or I'm really fast. But it's a good idea to create some stillness, because I think from stillness comes clarity. And from clarity comes innovation, breakthrough, and success. So to be a great leader, you've got to have the ability to slow yourself right down. And I call that my Mozart time. It's daily time for myself, by myself, with myself. No technology, no chance of interruption or disruption, just me, my thoughts, and my journal. And that is when I'm making sure that my ladder is placed against my right wall. And I think every leader's got to do that. It's too easy to get consumed by the daily tasks. So I think great leaders, they've got to give themselves that time. And for me, it's about how do you set yourself up for success on a daily basis? And that's where my morning routine comes in, which I call my 4M routine. And this is a habit that I had in corporate and I have in my entrepreneurial world now. And very, very briefly, the 4Ms, as I call it, starting every day with some movement.
Yes.
And many of my clients, my coaching clients, they're never going to be great runners, swimmers, gym junkies, cyclists. But I say everyone can move. And there's a great connection between the body and the mind. Healthy body, healthy mind. But also movement is a very innovative, creative state. And as a leader, you need that time to really think. Then I do what I call a mind cleanse, which is the second M. And that simply is I just download everything that's on my brain. Your brain can only hold 5 or 6 things at any one time. So your brain will respond to whatever's last and loudest. So after my morning movement, it's just me and my journal. Everything in my brain I just capture. But really importantly, it's not a things to do list. And I think this is a critical part if you want to be a great leader. You've got to be able to define what's low value and what's high value. A things to do list it's like a race to the bottom. There's a ton of low value stuff on there. So once I've had my mind cleanse, I'll go through that list and I'll star the things that I truly believe are high value.
So you prioritize effectively.
Absolute prioritization. And it's you only stay in business if you're a good prioritizer. I think you really win in business if you're a ruthless prioritizer. So I really spend the time to work out what are the dial changes, what really matters most. And then I follow that with 10 minutes of meditation a day. There's a lot of talk about, anxiety and pressure and stress. Movement and meditation are 2 proven techniques to reduce that. It's also really centering, also helps you concentrate. And that leads me into that period of Mozart time. Short, sharp, a few minutes just thinking, how do I build a great business? How do I serve my clients better? How do I become a better leader? How do I build a better team? Whatever the big questions of the day really are.
Mate, I love that. Mate, as mortgage brokers, you operate with a high level of ethics and integrity, and in order to maintain the trust of your clients and also the lenders, right? What leadership skills are required, or what is necessary to ensure that a mortgage broker operates with integrity and adheres to these ethical principles? I mean, what are your views on that?
Yeah, and I know it comes back to what we were talking, or what we touched on earlier. I think to have to be seen to have both a short and a long-term perspective on everything, to be doing things for the, when I was running the St. George Bank, for example, I wanted to be really, really strong for three key stakeholders: my people, my customers, and my communities. Now, there's always certain things that you'll do for your community that won't have a direct benefit to your top or your bottom line. And I think for a broker to be seen to be doing that, whether it's local community events, whether it's the power of LinkedIn to get consistent messages out, to consumers, whether they're existing clients or not, I think that's the type of thing that builds trust, that I can see that A, you're in it for the long term, and secondly, you're in it for more than just the next sale. And I think that's how you build a reputation. That's how you build relationships with the communities. And like I said earlier, if you do all the right things, then you'll create raving fans, and they will help sell your message. Go to this guy. He's full of. I really trust him. He's full of energy, passion, but I truly believe he's also full of integrity. And that's the message you want your clients sharing with their networks on your behalf.
Absolutely. You're right, because your clients effectively become your referrers, right?
Absolutely.
And it's free.
Yeah.
That's the best
totally.
thing about it.
And I look at that across so many businesses, that your best source of business is either repeat business or it's referrals and recommendations. It's as true for me in my world as it is for you and the brokers in their world.
Yeah, I agree. Now, as an industry, looking at the industry as a whole, what can the industry do to better help brokers hone in their leadership skills and help them thrive in their business? I mean, what are your thoughts on that? What's your advice to brokers listening to this?
Yeah, my advice to brokers is, I'll go back to my success formula, actually.
Yep.
If you think about the GiFT631 success formula, it starts off success. I can't define success for someone, but I can give them a very, very clear formula. And I'd love the broker community to just reflect and think about this for a minute. And success equals goals plus mindset plus high value action times the ability to debrief to drive continuous improvement. And if you just break up that success formula as a broker and ask yourself some challenging questions around each stage of that success formula, you'll find the answers to where you need to go to grow and improve your business. And just one thing I will say around goals, when I was sitting in the corporate chairs, every sales course I went on used to talk about SMART goals.
Yes.
And I hate that.
Yeah.
I'll tell you why I hate it. A, because it's based on the past.
Yeah.
What did we do last year or last quarter, and how do we do a little bit more? But secondly, I said to myself, well, if everyone's going to set SMART goals, everyone's going to be like everyone else.
Yeah.
We're all going to be mediocre together, because we're all, we're going on what we've done before and just adding a little bit.
Yeah.
So I decided I wasn't going to base my goals on the past. I was going to base my goals on opportunity. And instead of SMART goals, I went for SMUT goals: specific, measurable, unachievable, unrealistic, and time-bound, as opposed to a SMART goal, which is specific, measurable, achievable, realistic, and time-bound. So I'd encourage people to set massive goals. And then all you need to do, and I think this is really powerful advice for everyone, is people get overwhelmed by setting really huge goals. But all you need then is a process to break them down. So my business is GiFT631, but if you reverse 631, you get 136, and that's one SMUT goal. Break it down into 3 sub-goals or milestone goals, and then break it down again into your 6 next best actions. So you go massive on the goal, but you go small and consistent on the action. Every time you take an action, you replace the action. Every time you achieve a sub-goal, you replace a sub-goal. That's how you make a massive goal small. And as long as you're consistent on that daily action, and the broker community control their inputs, can't always control the outputs, but you control the inputs, and that's the action. It's the same for me, it's the same for you. That's where to focus.
Wow. Mate, I love that. What's your advice, obviously given your experience, what's your advice for someone that's looking to get into the broking industry? More particularly, those who are also looking to get into the industry and become leaders. I mean, what's your thought process in that? What advice would you give them?
Yeah.
Talk to me a little bit about that.
Yeah, when I joined the bank, I went on this 5-day cashier's course. And at the end of the 5-day course, the tutor was going around the group saying, and what have you learned, and what have you learned, and what have you learned? I've learned how to balance the cash. Anyway, I was the last person in the room.
Yeah.
And it got around to me and I said, look, I've learned that I want to be a manager by the time I'm 30, because I don't want to be doing this.
Yeah.
And they used to get this little green folder with all your notes in it. And I wrote on the folder, I will be a manager by the time I'm 30. As it turned out, I was a senior manager by the time I was 30. But, Then I said, well, how do I fast track this?
Mm-hmm.
And I just decided that I was going to seek successful people. Success leaves clues.
Yes.
We should all be modeling the masters.
Yes.
You should model the masters within the broker community, but you should also model the masters out with the broker community. And I just spent the early part of my career just looking for successful people. And this is one of my little formulas. I learned what they did. No point reinventing the wheel.
Mm-hmm.
I copied it.
Mm-hmm.
And then I added my own 10% winning edge to make it mine. And I think this is critical, Knowledge without action is useless.
Yes.
So I would encourage anyone wanting to get into the industry to find the best they possibly can. Learn how they do it. Buy them a cup of coffee. Just soak it up. But just having the knowledge isn't enough. You've then got to put things into practice. When you're young, when you're starting out in the industry, that's the time to be making safe mistakes. Just don't make the same mistake twice.
Yeah, absolutely. Learn from your mistakes.
Learn, improve, go again, trip over again, pick yourself up again, learn, go again. And it's just a repeating cycle. But by modeling the masters, that's when you accelerate.
Wow. Some really good words of wisdom there, Andy. Last but certainly not least, there's a phrase I've heard you say, why people don't buy people. Explain that to me. What does that mean?
It's another one of those, when I went on my first sales course, the two things I came away with, and I thought, I just don't believe that. The first one was SMART goals. I thought, no, that's just average, right?
Yeah.
And the second one, this sales trainer was leaping around the room going, people buy people. And I'm sitting there going, no, they don't. They don't.
Yeah.
I don't buy miserable, victim mindset, cynical.
Yeah.
I don't buy that. So for me, what do I buy? I buy passionate people. I buy people with a can-do attitude. I buy people who are action-orientated. So I think we've got to get away from some of these really kind of trendy phrases.
Yeah.
If I come and see you and you can't look me in the eye, you can't give me the time of day, you're rushing, you just look uncomfortable, I'm not going to buy that. Never mind tell anyone else to go and buy that.
Yeah.
But if you've got that energy, that passion, that drive, that can-do attitude, that's what I'm going to buy. So, put it to one side that people don't buy any old people.
Yeah.
People buy positive, can-do, optimistic, action-orientated people.
Wow. Andy, I love that. Like I said, some very, very wise words of wisdom. Thank you very much. That is all we have time for today. Andy, thank you once again, and we'll speak to you soon.
My absolute pleasure.
Thank you.